We all want to feel peace in our lives. Peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Hi, it's my favorite part of the week, and that's when I get to chat with you. I know I'm just like looking at a computer screen and at my dog and the clothes that I need to put away on my bed currently. That's actually what I'm seeing right now, but it's my favorite part of the week because I really do feel like when I'm recording, I'm connecting with all of you who are listening in a very abstract meta kind of a way. But first of all, can I just say thank you? It is blowing my mind how many of you guys are tuning in every week. I mean, we've been around for... Okay, I'm gonna have to do some math on my fingers. We came out basically at the beginning of November. And by we, I mean me and my invisible friend, who's also me. I came out with this podcast on October 31st. So essentially November. So that's November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So a little over 6 months ago. And we are at something like 13,000 listens. It's insane. There's something like 800 people showing up to listen to this podcast every week, and it's growing. And I honestly sometimes don't know why, because I think I'm insane when I listen back to these episodes, but also hopefully they're really helpful. Hopefully that's why you're here, is because they actually have been helping you declutter your home and feel inspired and hopefully a little entertained along the way. I definitely put a lot of work into the podcast, so it's nice to see that it is resonating with everyone. I really want to make sure that every time you tune in, you will learn something and feel good, right? I don't want this to be any form of a source of shame or just a source of negativity or sadness or anything. Not to say that there's I should always just have a toxic positive mindset, but there's something to be said for some good energy, right? And so that's what I want for you, and that's what I hope this podcast offers. And so thank you for being here. I am actually experiencing a podcast first today, and that is I am recording during a massive thunderstorm outside. End of the world type style. I'm kind of worried that the house is going to be hit by lightning at any moment. I also don't know how electricity works. I'm just going to tell you that. I have no idea. The fact that Thomas Edison invented a light bulb, how, right? It makes no sense to me. My brain is not smart enough, and nor have I done enough research. I can tell you every single Taylor Swift song and probably sing most of them for you. I don't know how electricity works. So whenever there's a thunderstorm outside, I am convinced, as I sit amongst the wires of my podcast, that I'm going to be electrocuted. That somehow the lightning is going to come through my house and into my body from these headphones. So anyways, if I die, I love you, children. Shout out to my kids. You guys are great. Keep at it. Erin, it's okay. You could get married again. Just make sure she loves Jesus, and maybe choose someone that doesn't have PMDD this time. You don't deserve to go through that twice in one lifetime. All right. That's my message if I die. Also, thanks for being here. I am so morbid. What's wrong with me? All right. I digress. And once again, this is exactly why I'm shocked that so many of you are enjoying this podcast, but thanks again. I've said thank you 1,000 times already at the beginning of this episode, but that's one thing that I feel like I can't say enough. So today's topic, you guys, this is such a big one. I feel like I have two major questions that pop up into my DMs constantly. I mean, I get lots of different questions, but the two big ones are, what do I do if my partner doesn't want to declutter? Or I can't declutter because my partner doesn't want to. And that's why I did a whole mini series on paring down relationships. And I brought on world-renowned psychologist, Dr. Tracy Dalglish, to talk through what to do when your partner doesn't want to declutter, as well as brought on my own husband, Aaron Leyko, he's a stuff guy. And that's been an interesting dynamic in our relationship. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, they're episodes I looked this up before I pushed play to remember. 17 and 19. Yep, episode 17 and 19 are those two. The other big question I get is the one we're going to be talking about today. And that is, how can I declutter when I have no time? I cannot find the time. When am I supposed to do this? And I get this from every kind of person imaginable. Most of you listening are women and most of you are moms. Not all of you. Love all of you who aren't, but I would say the majority of you are in that category. And I always hear from working moms, like, I can't do this because I work all day. I'm a working mom. I hear from stay-at-home moms, I can't do it because I have kids around all day. How can I possibly do it with kids around? I hear from hybrid moms that are like, I'm spinning every single plate imaginable and I don't know what to do. I get it. So I have some good news. I have been all three. I have been a full-time working mom. I have been a stay-at-home mom. And I have been a hybrid mom, which is what I currently am. And for the record, I like abhor. Look at that word. That's a good word, abhor. I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly. ABHOR. I read that word more than I say it. But anyways, I abhor the word stay at home mom. Because first of all, anyone who's home with kids all day knows that the only trick to being a stay at home mom is to get out of the house. Don't stay at home. They'll drive you crazy. Go to the park, get out of the house, strap them into the car. Then they can't really bother you. You know what I mean? But whatever, stay-at-home mom or working mom, as if the stay-at-home moms aren't working. Like, I take issue with that. But we will just use those titles for now because that's what the world has given us. And those are the titles that we're used to using. But just know that in my heart, I abhor them. Okay? Alrighty, now that that's covered, let's start with when I was a working mom. This is when I had one child. So my boss, like, shout out to my boss at the time, but also, were you crazy? Offered me this huge promotion while I was on maternity leave. And so I get this email that's like, when you come back, do you want to be assistant director of the entire department? And meanwhile, I'm thinking I'm probably not even going to go back. And so that was crazy. I did decide to accept that role with a lot of stipulations. I basically was like, can you give me an office so I can nurse and pump in private? And also, I want to bring my baby with me for the first couple of weeks, and I only want to work from the office half the day. And this was well before COVID. This was in 2017, where at least in that culture, work environment, that working from home was like not a thing. It was butts in seats. But I felt like I had the upper hand. So I asked for a lot. I asked for like a stupid amount of money. And I guess they really needed me because they said yes. And then I was like, oh crap, I have to actually accept this job now because all my negotiation tactics shockingly worked. So I did end up working, and then I had my baby with me. And I should also say, this is also when my husband was out to sea. So he was gone for half the year when I became a mom, which also, like, do not recommend. It's so hard. I honestly thought I was going to die those first 12 weeks, which is why working ended up actually being what was best for me. I know that's not the point of this podcast to talk about the pros and cons of being a working mom versus stay-at-home mom or whatever. All I will say is that working saved my life because I had such bad postpartum anxiety and depression, and my husband was gone. I was basically doing it alone. My parents were wonderful, but there is just a challenge, right? Obviously. And by going to work, it gave me something to focus on other than all of the kid stuff that takes over your mind, like all the safety fears and anxieties and what do I do and how do I do this? And that just becomes all you think about. So for me, it was really helpful to have this like forced reason to think about something else. However, I was absolutely out of my mind for taking my baby to the office. I remember one time I was nursing him under a nursing cover while leading a meeting. It was an internal meeting, so it wasn't like with clients, but yeah, that was like a girl power moment for sure. But then we ended up getting a part-time nanny, and my stepmom and my dad helped part-time and whatever. So we got childcare, and that was my working mom experience. And all this to say that being a working mom, when you're not at home, right, you can't just like kind of fit in decluttering projects. Like that's just not an option because you're not in the house. And there's pros to that. Let me just say that right now, like I work from home, and I'll get to that in a minute. I'm hybrid right now in terms of being a stay-at-home mom and a working mom. But I work from home, and that is a point of contention with my husband and me. I mean, we talk through it. We have wonderful communication. He is an absolutely wonderful human being. And, as marriages do, they take work and open communication. But that's definitely something we've talked about where I feel like I, by default, because I work from home and am expected to be the more flexible one and figure it out. If something needs to happen, I have to figure it out because I happen to be in the home. But that doesn't mean I have less work to do than my husband who's at the office. He just doesn't have the option to squeeze it in, so he doesn't have to. So then I feel like I'm constantly squeezing stuff in, and it's like very stressful. So I will say that when I was a working mom at the office, like I would say that was helpful in the sense that I had to get really specific about when I was going to declutter because I wasn't home. I couldn't try and fit it in. Um, but I was able to kind of compartmentalize those things instead of doing the classic mom thing or classic work from home thing, which is like you mesh everything together and then your wheels are constantly spinning and you feel like you're not actually accomplishing anything because you're trying to do it all at once. And there's no such thing as multitasking. I mean, there is when you're a mom, let's be honest. I can do a lot while I'm driving a car. I shouldn't say that okay, I'm going to say it. Like, I'm not the only one that has to like pass back water bottles and snacks while I'm driving, right? Like, stay away from me on the road, apparently. I'm a good driver, okay? I'm just saying multitasking I do have to do that sometimes. But in general, multitasking is not a productive way of moving through the world. So when you work from an office and you're a full-time working mom, or you're a full-time working mom at home and you are good at setting those boundaries, or you like you can't really like quote get away with stepping away from the computer to throw in a load of laundry or to do a 5-minute decluttering project or whatever. You just don't have flexibility. It's hard, but it's also a blessing because you can compartmentalize those two things and be focused on whatever you're doing at the time that you're doing it. So what did I do exactly? I'm sorry, I really haven't gotten to the point yet. This is fun for you. What did I do exactly to find the time when I was a working mom? This is not going to be an answer that you love. Sorry, but you have to do it on the evenings and the weekends. Like if you're not going to be able to do it during the day because you're working, like literally the only other time are evenings and weekends. And listen, you're going to say this, but I'm tired in the evenings. Yep. Get that for sure. I don't function after 7 p.m. Actually, I really don't function after like 4 p.m., but life requires me to kind of fake it a little bit, but yeah, I'm done by 7 p.m. And then, when it comes to weekends, you're going to say, I don't want to spend my only free time decluttering, right? And that's fair. Like you're a human, like you deserve to have some time to do things you really enjoy. Or maybe you just have kids that have like sports on weekends and you're like, I don't even have time on weekends. I get it. So here's the deal. I know you tuned in to get like a magical answer of where to find the time. I am not Hermione Granger. I do not have a like time locket that I can like pass onto your neck and it will create more hours in the day. Like if I had that, I would absolutely offer it to you like for free. I promise. I don't have that. So the most important thing is you have to decide that this is important to you. Period. Like it is vital. You will not do it. You will not find the time. You will not break away from this idea that you can only do it if it's convenient to you unless you really want to do it. You have to really want to live in a home with less. Like that has to be a priority. And how does that become a priority? Well, you have to know your why. And good news, I'm going to plug this, which is not really a plug because it's not going to earn me anything. But I have a free Know Your Why worksheet that I just dropped this past week. And by dropped, I mean I put a link in my bio and you can go download it for free. It's a Know Your Why worksheet. And this is exactly what will keep you motivated and make you want to declutter and make it a priority for you is when you figure out why you want to. Like being motivated by like comparison or shame, like, oh, like I'm just a gross person and I want my house to be decluttered, or they have such a beautiful home and I want my house to look like those. That is never going to motivate you on the weekends or in the evenings when you're tired or you're busy or whatever. Like that's just, you're not going to carve out the time based on that. So this Know Your Why worksheet, which I won't get into on air, but just fill it out. Do that for yourself. Take the time, invest in that because that'll help you figure out why decluttering really is so important to you. And once it's that important to you, then you're going to figure out a way to get it done. So that's the number one thing. Know your why. And listen, I'm sorry, nothing's going to get done unless you get it done. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to happen unless you decide to make it happen. And I really wish that wasn't the case. Like I really do. but I feel like I need to say that because it's the hard thing to say, but it's also the truth that investing the time up front for a happier future, like so you won't have the house hanging over your head every single weekend when you're trying to enjoy your time at the water park or at soccer practice with your kids or going on a hike or the things you love to do, but then the house is hanging over your head. So you might have to sacrifice some of those moments in the present in order to have a happier future, and it'll pay off, and then you'll have all of your weekends starting in a month from now or however long it takes you to declutter, and you won't have it hanging over your head. So it's just really investing the time up front. And I know that sometimes people say, well, if you don't have time, you got to fit it into small pockets. Like as a working mom, that to me just didn't work. There were no small pockets. I wasn't in the house. You know what I mean? Except for on weekends and in the evenings. And also, if you're looking to make big changes, like you have a lot of clutter that you're trying to get through, like those little pockets are better for maintenance. And yes, they work. I mean, you're getting stuff out. I use little pockets of time constantly. I'm constantly putting stuff into our donation bin. But if you're looking to make big changes and you're needing to go through different rooms and different zones and really declutter, these big changes are or they're going to have to take a little bit more time than just like a 5-minute pocket or grab this as you're walking down the hallway and toss it in the donation box, right? And in order to make that happen, it's challenging. This is a challenging thing to take on and to talk about because all of our schedules are different and all of our lives are different. For me, it was I have to send my husband to soccer practice while I stay home and tackle the toy room or tackle the kids' closets or whatever. Like divide and conquer. Is it ideal? No. But again, investing the time up front. Chai Leyko, you step away from my piles of clothes right now. My clothes are folded on the bed and my dog just came in and was like trying to destroy my work. I tell you, the kids are in school and I still have a little cute creature that's just trying to cause chaos all the time. Anyway, it's a good thing she's cute. You are cute. Okay, sorry, I'm distracted by my dog. She's so cute. So anyway, we divide and conquer, right? Not fun, not the greatest, but at the same time, like needs to happen. If you don't have a partner that you can divide and conquer with, maybe they aren't really on board and they don't understand the value in decluttering a home, or you don't have a partner, then you are probably going to have to look into evenings more so than on weekends. And you're going to have to kind of listen more to the stay-at-home mom section that's coming up because you're going to be decluttering with the kids around. But let's talk about evenings real fast because, again, with the working parents, you're looking at weekends and evenings. Choose projects you can do from in front of the TV. Since you are tired, like lean into that. That's fine. I love to sit down while I'm decluttering. Okay. I like to sit down in general. In fact, this was so embarrassing. My son was like, I forget why it came up. He's 6. So, he's at that age between 3 and 6 where they just say the most outrageous things that are like so painfully true that you're like, come on, man, did you have to call me out like that? I don't remember what the context was, but he was like, Mommy really likes to sit down. And I was like, you're so rude, but also like, you're right. I love to sit down. So, anyway, the point is choose projects you can do from in front of the TV. So you can literally like dump out a junk drawer, like take the whole drawer out, just take it out and sit it on the floor in front of the TV and go through it. You can take all your shirts, like just grab them in your arms out of your drawer and just plop them into a pile on the ground in front of the TV. Like there's so much you can do. I've organized my kids' markers and crayons. Like I've taken a bunch of different bins that I've gotten totally out of whack from our art closet, and I've tested the markers and put only back the ones that work and organized the art stuff from in front of the TV. So think about that. Like what can I do in the evenings that leans into this reality that I'm exhausted, but also decluttering is really, really important to me. So I'm going to make it happen. So how can I merge those things? And to me, that's what can you do while you're sitting down? Can I get an amen? All right, let's move on to stay-at-home mom category. And like I said, some of this will be helpful for working moms who don't have that support on weekends and you have to declutter when the kids are around. Or if you don't have kids, I think you can still get a lot out of this because it's just a matter of making it work. It's a make it work moment, as Tim Gunn would say. So let me start by saying this. It is 0% easier for a stay-at-home mom to declutter than for a working mom because there are different challenges, right? Like the kids are around, and I know the kids are around sometimes for the working moms too and all of that, but like everybody's working. We're all working really hard. Okay. So something I learned really quickly when I went into full stay-at-home mom mode, which is when we moved to Alaska, is that I have to really release any guilt about not paying attention to them 24/7. Like, it's just not going to happen. Sorry, kids. Love you. Can't sit and play dinosaurs with you all the time. Even if you grab my leg and you say you want to. Like, I had to get past this idea that I was scarring my children by telling them no and saying mommy has to do something else other than pay attention to you and trust that they're going to be okay. And like, so far so good. I think they seem like reasonably adjusted children. We'll find out in 10 or 20 years. I am a reasonably adjusted human being, I think. And my mom didn't pay attention to me 24/7. So we're going to go with that. Okay. So release that guilt. They'll be fine. You can work on a decluttering project, even if little Sally wants you to play dress up. Okay. Again, this is important to you. This is also why your why matters, because as parents, part of why you want to do this is to give your children a better environment to play in, an understanding of what is actually important in the world, so that they're not they don't value materialism and consumerism and all of that. So this is important for them too. So again, it goes back to your why, that you're willing to like not play dolls because it is important to you that you take this time and you invest it up front to do the decluttering. And you're like, okay, that sounds great. Like, I'm super down not to play with dolls. But also, like, what do I do when they dig through all the mess of piles? Because decluttering often includes piles of stuff. And kids are like, sweet, what can I get into in this pile? How do I spread it out around the house the most? Or how do I find the most dangerous thing in the pile and put it in my mouth, right? Like, that's what happens. So, classic of what you can do, distract them. Give them coloring books, give them Play-Doh, give them something fun to do while you declutter. And if you're like, that doesn't work, they want to be around me 24/7. Like, if I'm doing something and I'm focused on something, that's what they're focused on. Fine, I hear you. Next, give them a specific assignment that actually helps you in the decluttering project that you're doing. Obviously something that is safe, but something that keeps them occupied. For example, can you take all of the papers and put them in a pile for me? Get every single one. Can you make it a super nice pile? Can you find all the black cords and can you put all the black cords in a line? Can you make a line with them? Is there something they can sort, right? Like, can you sort all of the, I don't know, can you put all the mugs that I've taken out into different I don't know how many mugs you have and why you would have so many of different colors, but also my husband would absolutely have plenty for my children to sort when it comes to mugs. But like, it's a weird example, but whatever you are, like, have them sort it into colors for you, or just something that is not like actually destroying what your work is, but they're involved and they get their hands dirty because that's what they want. The next piece of advice I have for decluttering when kids are around is put your piles on a surface instead of on the floor. So this could be like a bed, this could be your dining room table, this could be the dresser in their room, whatever it is, put it up. I get it. Kids are going to try and climb up and pull it off. And I get it. However, it's like one step further away from them than the floor. Okay. And so it's a lot easier to be like, hey, don't climb on the bed. Oh, nope, you're not allowed to pull that off. Don't do that. Right. I mean, you're going to have to be saying that all the time. Sorry. Again, I can't change the way the world works and how children work, but it's easier. Oh my gosh, the storm's getting crazy. You guys, truly, I might die. I might be electrocuted. I hope that doesn't happen. But Erin, please publish this for the people. Okay. What's that word? Oh no, I don't know what that word is. Humulously? Posthumously. I just Googled it. I guess I was trying to add another syllable in there. Whew. Y'all, I'm so sorry that I am who I am. Okay, so back to what I was saying before the storm distracted me. You're going to have to tell your kids to get off the counter or the table or whatever, but at least you can try and set that boundary with them that you're not allowed up here, and just kind of like referee it instead of them easily being able to just like grab things and run around the house with them from your piles. Okay, so the next big thing that I hear is like, well, what do I do when it comes to their stuff? And they're attached to everything and they're going to be mad if I'm decluttering their stuff. I cannot do it with them around. Okay, you will have to get very creative. I hear you. So again, if you can get your partner on board, amazing, awesome. If they can get the kids out of the house and entertain them while you get after decluttering, like talk to them about that, ask them to do that. You are not a bad spouse for asking for help to declutter your home so that you guys can have an easier and happier home to live in. Okay. Go listen to those episodes 17 and 19 of the podcast if you struggle with communicating with your spouse about decluttering. Next, if that's not an option, like I said, I really do recommend trying to do that first sweep without them. Like, I don't know what your screen time rules are, but if you're like, I can put a movie on them on, I can put a movie on the screen and do like a 1 hour sweep of their toys and just let them watch TV for an hour. Like, you're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. If you're like, I will not use screen time as a quote babysitter for my kids, fine. Love that for you too. Again, it's just going to be a matter of being creative and seeing how you can distract them a little bit, because I really, really, really do think that it's better to do a first sweep on your own. You don't have to, and this isn't a decluttering kids toys episode. I have an entire guide now that also came out last week, a complete guide to decluttering kids stuff. If you want to check that out, I will put the link to that in the Know Your Why worksheet in the show notes for this week. So this is not a decluttering your kids stuff episode, so I'm going to try not to get into too deep into how to declutter kids stuff and like what order to do things. But I will say I do very much recommend doing the first big sweep by yourself if it's possible, and then putting that stuff either directly to donations, depending on how well you feel like you know what your kids will miss and what they won't, or putting them in boxes and letting them sit away, secretly stashed away for a couple months and see if your kids miss them. It's just easier to do that first big declutter by yourself, because kids do. They like see the one thing that they haven't played with in a year and they see you decluttering it and then they want to play with it. And so, yeah, I definitely would suggest trying to do that first sweep by yourself. If that's not an option, then you can dive into all of the advice that you've heard on previous podcasts or that are in that complete guide to decluttering kids stuff about helping your kids work with you during decluttering. Because you might not be able to do it in the evenings because you keep all the toys in their bedroom so they're asleep, or maybe you co-sleep and so you're never actually apart from them. Like, I get it. Like, these are very real scenarios that make it really difficult to be able to declutter when your kids are not around. So I just want to encourage you here, so that I don't dive too much into all the like details of decluttering kid stuff, that they are willing to part with more than you think. I promise. Even your kids that are really attached to stuff, if you slow down and you ask them questions about it and you talk to them about it, they will declutter more than you think that they will. And I'll kind of just leave it at that. I'm trying to think what episode I've talked about that a little bit in before. I think episode 1, I've talked about it a little bit with Maitland Pissarra. I think I also talked about it with Jane Conroy of The Simplified Home. I don't remember what episode that is, but I'll link it in the show notes. And maybe also with Elizabeth Beam when we talked about, does minimalism deprive our kids? That episode, I want to say that's episode 15. I think we touch on how to talk to your kids about it in all those episodes. So again, I'll link that. Moving on to hybrid. So this would be if you work part-time and you're a stay-at-home mom part-time. How do I find time to declutter? That's me right now. I will tell you, this is the busiest time of my life. I am not proud of this. Obviously, I preach simplifying, and I am not living a simplified life right now in terms of my schedule. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It's been absolutely insane. So I work from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. every morning. And then starting at 7 a.m. is when I'm on with the kids. So Aaron takes care of the kids till 7. And I have the 2 little kids that are 3 and 4 years old from 7 till 8. Well, 7 till 8:30 a.m. Kind of technically, I drop them off at school at 8:30. That puts me home a little bit before 9. And then I work again from 9 to it depends on the day, but basically I have 12 hours of work for my part-time job that I have to get in. And then this podcast usually takes 5-6 hours once I prep, record, edit, and upload. And then I also have other work that I do for paring down, like the masterclass that is currently out, and putting together guides and making content for Instagram, all of that, right? So that's all part of my paring down business. So basically I work again from I try to work from 9 to 11, another 2 hours. I work out from 11 to 11:45, and then I hop in the car while I'm sweaty. I go pick up the kids by noon. And then I have the kids from 12 to 1:30 at home before I pack them back in the car to go get my oldest from kindergarten, pick him up at 2. We get home, and by 2:30, they're all down for quiet time. And then I work again from 2:30 to 4. And then starting at 4, I'm either making dinner or getting us ready to go to extracurriculars in the evening. And then I usually have some work that I'm either doing at extracurriculars or when we get home in the evening, once Aaron does bedtime, and then I continue to do work. So it's been a crazy season. The good news is I love everything I do. I love my part-time job, and then I obviously love everything I'm paring down. The point of sharing that wild schedule with you is that literally every second of my day right now is completely filled chock-a-block. Even when I have the kids, I'm usually having to get some form of work done. And that's the struggle with the hybrid, right? Is like I mentioned earlier, you're kind of expected to do it all. You're expected to be flexible like a stay-at-home mom that doesn't have maybe obligations throughout the day, but then you also have to get your work done. So I have 12 hours of work I have to do a week. I only have 13 for my part-time job. And then for paring down and probably doing another 12 hours of work once you add it all together, not just for the podcast, maybe 10. But so I'm looking at 20-ish hours of work, I would say, a week, but I only have 13 hours of childcare. So I'm working while I have the kids a lot of time, and it's just very challenging. So how do I find time to declutter right now? I mean, I'm currently in my maintenance stage more so. So I will say that this is really when I kind of find those pockets of time. I keep my eyes peeled constantly for what I can throw away into the donation box or whatever. Like as I walk down the hallway, I'm like, these shoes were a little tight last time I put them on, or I snag a toy that is broken and I know they don't care about, and it's just like sitting in the hallway. Like I am more in that maintenance stage. But sometimes there are big things that we still need to get done. For instance, the art closet, no matter how many times I organize and declutter it, always gets crazy because I let the kids have access to it so that they can be their little creative selves. So inevitably it gets wild in there after a while. So I'll have to like really do the art closet. Or we really needed to go through our garage earlier this year. So we straight up hired a babysitter. We just had to. We knew we needed to take a whole day on a Saturday and get everything out and then put everything back in. And it was a wild job, but we got a babysitter and we just went for it. And I decided that was worth the $150 investment to have a babysitter for most of the day. But despite the fact that I am mostly in maintenance, I will say that in order to maintain the kind of schedule I have right now and find time to do the things that are most important to me, like decluttering, I have to time block. I time block my week. And it's crazy, but time blocking works for me. What is time blocking? That's where I literally write in my planner every single Sunday what hours of the day I'm doing what. So that first of all, it helps me not feel overwhelmed, because then I see that there's a place for everything. I'm like, oh, I will get this all done because I know exactly when I'm getting certain things done. So I will time block out 9 to 10:30, work for my boss, 10:30 to 11, make 2 reels, 11 to 11:40 work out, 11:40 to 11:50 put the donation, or 11:45 put the donation box in the car so that I can do that. I can go by Goodwill. Once I pick up the kids from school, like on the way home, I'll stop by Goodwill, right? Like I block in the time it takes, the 5 minutes to put the box in the car. And I specifically say I'm going to go donate that after I pick up the kids from school. I don't just kind of think I need to get to the donation center this week. Right? That's overwhelming and it never happens. I time block it out. Or for instance, I really wanted to go through our wine glasses recently. I was like, we have so many wine glasses, because most people, when we got married, gave us wine glasses because they knew I was a big wine gal, which was so nice. And they're really nice glasses. So I've like really struggled to kind of get rid of them. But recently I was over it. And so I wanted to declutter the wine glasses. And so I time blocked it out that when I'm feeding my kids lunch on Wednesday or whatever day of the week it was, I will declutter wine glasses at the same time. So, which was easy because that's in the kitchen. So they're sitting at the table eating their lunch. I'm asking them about their day, but instead of sitting with them like I usually do, I am going through the wine glasses while we chat, and it worked out beautifully. But instead of saying I need to declutter, right? Time block it out. Write it into your schedule. What date and time exactly you're going to take on that decluttering project. So when you're hybrid, and that could work for any, honestly, for stay-at-home mom or for working moms, but especially for hybrid moms where you're just trying to fit everything in this big like jumble of everything, time blocking. Another one that's important to me is if it takes less than 2 minutes, I just need to make it happen. This is why mail, I don't even have, I've talked about the doom piles in mail episode. You've heard me say this, but I don't even have like a different piles for mail anymore, like a needs to be filed or needs to be addressed pile or anything like an envelope, or not an envelope, a slot I don't know, whatever you call it, a tray. I don't have that anymore because then it would just build up and then I'd have like 6 months worth of stuff I needed to file. And so if it takes less than 2 minutes, make it happen. So for me, that's mail. The second it comes in, I open it, I look at it. If it needs to be addressed, I take a picture of it because you never actually have to, very rarely, you need the actual piece of mail in order to address something. You just go to a website. I take a picture of it. I send it to Aaron. If it's under his bucket of responsibilities, I do it right then. If it's my responsibilities, if I can't do it right then, I put the picture in an album I have on my phone that's, mail needs to be addressed. And then I go into my planner, which I have on the counter next to where I open mail, and I write down time blocking when I'm going to address that. Right? Or I just put it on my to-do list, which then on another day, I'll just take my to-do list and block it out in my time blocking planner. But I don't keep the mail itself. None of it. It's by. It takes less than 2 minutes to take a picture of it and figure out what needs to happen. So anything that takes 2 minutes or less, do that. This morning, for instance, another example, my 4-year-old, when I went to school to drop her off, the teacher gave me this beautiful tote bag that she had made with her handprints on it. It's so cute. Cannot wait to use it for groceries and for all the toting around of things. And so I was like, oh, this is a good opportunity. I'm going to go put it in my basket where I keep all tote bags. And I was like, I don't need all these other tote bags if I have a new tote bag. And so I just quickly decluttered the tote bags. It took less than 2 minutes. I put my daughter's cute one in there, took out 2 other ones that we don't really use, and voila, decluttered a little bit, right? So if it takes less than 2 minutes, just go ahead and do it. Another one that works well for me when it comes to the maintenance stage and also just making decluttering quick is I don't keep outgrown bins. I know this is controversial. I don't keep outgrown bins in my kids' closets. The second something doesn't fit, instead of like tossing it in an outgrown bin that then has to make its way to a donation bin or a gifting bin, like there's just too many steps. I take it in my little hands, takes less than 2 minutes, and I walk it to the donation bin, or I grab a plastic bag because it's a nice piece of clothing and I will give it to a friend who I know has a kid. I've identified which friends of mine have kids that are like a good hand-me-down age from my kids. And I ask them, do you want another really cute dress? Sometimes I'll even snap a picture of it and send it to them. And most of the time they're like, yes, because I'm not giving them the cruddy clothes. I donate those. But for the dresses that are really beautiful or whatever, I know exactly who it's going to. I put it in a bag, I hang it by the door so I can bring it to church next time I go, right? Again, so an outgrown bin is a good thing, but also I take it one step further. Not only don't you let it back into rotation if it doesn't fit your kid, but just immediately put it in donation or a bag to give someone. Like the outgrown bin will just grow and grow and grow too. And then it's just a lot to go through. So again, those are the things that work for me to like maintain a decluttered home, but they also will help you declutter if like you are looking for more opportunities to declutter in little pockets because your life is so crazy, which I get. Hopefully those are helpful. So I guess the moral of the story today is that it has to be important to you. There is no magic answer that makes decluttering convenient. There just isn't. So you have to know why you want to. You have to really figure out why this is important to you. And therefore you make the time. You invest the time for your future self. And I know it's not easy. And I know that whether you're working or with kids or you're trying to do it all, it can feel really exhausting, but it's also really exciting. It's so exciting when you're like, oh my gosh. First of all, it's satisfying in the moment. It's very satisfying when you actually do it, but it's also just so exciting to know that you are taking control. You're taking back your power and saying, I'm not going to let this stuff bog me down anymore. So it becomes exciting and it becomes something that you want to do more. So it doesn't feel like you're just wasting your weekends or your evenings decluttering. It can be something you really look forward to and becomes really fun. I mean, call me crazy. I love decluttering. I like get really excited about it. And so it's actually becomes a little bit of like a me time situation because you know that you are doing this as a true form of self-care for yourself and for your family. This is like so different than like taking like a bubble bath, which is nice too. Don't get me wrong. I love a good bubble bath, but like self-care really is about investing in yourself and in your environment and in your family in a way that extends the like longevity of your calm, that like takes away stress from your life. And that's what decluttering is. So keep that in mind too, that it doesn't have to be something that you're like, oh, I have to make time for this, right? Like it can be something like, oh, I get to make time for this, and be proud of yourself and enjoy the benefits of a cleaner, more decluttered, calmer, less stressful home. All right, guys. Thanks for making so much time to listen to the podcast too, because obviously I know you're busy people. So I appreciate you being here. And I hope that this was a helpful episode, even with all my manic energy. Okay. Love ya. See you next week. You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face, so thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at Paring Down Podcast, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.